Welcome to part 18 of Vegas Pro Essentials. Titles are everywhere, and they're essential to everyone's production. They're even at the beginning of this video. Vegas Pro offers a range of titling tools, and we're going to look at the Vegas Titles and Text Generator to simply create titles. Before creating a new title, we'll add another video track. You can add a video track by right-clicking in the timeline and inserting a new video track. Like all things in Vegas Pro, there are many ways to achieve the same result. Here's the most obvious way to add a title, which I don't think is always the best. Click the Media Generator tab and choose the Titles and Text effect. Drag and drop a new text generator to the timeline. The next method of creating a title is slightly faster and the one I use more often. Place the timeline cursor where you would like the title to start. Right-click on the target track and choose to insert text media. The Titles and Text event appears, and its default length is 5 seconds. But like stills and adjustment events, these can be dragged out to whatever length you want. If you want all your titles to start with a different default length, you can easily change this. Go to Preferences, look at the Editing tab, and change still image length. Now all future titles will start with this length. Back to the timeline, something has changed with the interface. You should also see the Video Media Generator window with the text properties. If you don't see the window or the tab in the docking area, you can click the Generated Media button on the text event in the timeline. To edit the text, simply click in the text box and edit your title. Let's call the title Cardio Burns Calories to fit with the spot we're editing. To change any of the text properties, you need to first select the text like you would in any word processing application. So let's first change the font using the pull-down menu. Here you will see your installed fonts, and yours might be different to mine. You can also use the up and down arrow hotkeys to quickly scroll through all the fonts if you want a quick way to preview how they'll look. For this example, I'll go with this font. I'll also make the size slightly smaller using the controls in the panel. I can also set the text to bold and centered. These controls work exactly as you would expect if you had done this sort of typing on a computer. I'll leave the title white, but you can click the color and change it to whatever you want. Looking at the video preview, you can grab the text and place it wherever you want on the frame. If you want the text to be at the center of the frame, double-click the text. There are also additional advanced settings where you can control the spacing between the characters and lines of the text, but we won't need it for this example. To add a finishing touch to the text, let's expand the shadow settings and enable the shadow. As with everything, we can tweak the position of the drop shadow with the various sliders. I'll make this very obvious so you can see, but don't feel obliged to make it this strong. As I'm sure you've noticed, the title is immediately available in the timeline, and you can scrub or play the event to review it. Since this title is an event in the timeline, it has the same functionality as other events. For example, you can use the cursor to add a fade on both sides of the event. Scrubbing or playing the title again, the text will fade in and out as expected. The timeline functionality extends even further than this. Any generated event can be duplicated and repurposed. But there's something very special you need to learn about this when you're doing it with titles. Select the title event on the timeline and use the right-click menu to copy the event. Move the timeline cursor to the start of the new title and use the right-click menu to paste the event. Of course, you can use the keyboard shortcuts. I'm just showing you visually how to do this. After pasting, a pop-up appears and asks how we'd like to handle the generated media. Creating a copy makes a new event and just copies the settings. It's independent from the original. Creating a reference means that any changes we make will ripple through to all the other references of that event. This could be very useful if we use the exact same title multiple times. For this type of job, and to keep it straightforward, let's make a copy of the text event. To edit the text properties of the new pasted event, click the Generated Media button on that event. Now let's edit the title and change the size of the text. We'll also change the color of the title as we want to highlight this word a bit more. Let's reposition the title at the bottom of the frame using the video preview. Let's play the event to see how that looks. We can also take advantage of some of the more advanced functionality in Vegas Pro. Let's say we want the text to push on and off screen instead of the fade. Switch to the Transitions tab and locate the Push Wipe Transitions. We'll use the Push Right Transition preset. Drag the transition to the beginning of the event and another transition to the end of the event. The transitions use the duration of the original fade transitions. Playing back the timeline, the title has a bit more excitement to it, flying on and off the frame. And for the other one, let's use an effects tool to blur the title with the fades. This shows that as soon as a title is on the timeline, you can treat it like any other event. Switch to the Video Effects tab and find the Gaussian blur. Drag it onto the event. To animate the blur with the transitions, go to the first frame of the event and turn on Animate for the vertical and horizontal range parameters. Let's set both parameters up for a little bit of blurring. Move the timeline cursor to the end of the fade and set both range parameters to 0. The text will start off blurred and come into focus during the fade. Let's recreate the same effect but in reverse on the fade out. Move the timeline cursor to the start of the fade. Hold Ctrl, select both the horizontal and vertical parameters in the animation editor. Click the Add Key button to add a keyframe on both parameters. Finally, go to the end of the event and increase both the horizontal and vertical parameters similar to the first keyframe. Go back to the beginning of the timeline and play the final result. There is plenty more you can do with titling in Vegas Pro, but this should be enough to get you started and begin to play with it yourself. In the next video, you'll learn about some of the color grading and look development tools you have at your fingertips. See you there.